They called him Jonah at the shelter, but before that he had no name, just a rusted chain around his neck and a scar across his left eye. He was found wandering the side of a busy interstate in the rain, limping, hungry, and soaked to the bone. Cars sped by. Some slowed down, then moved on. He wasn't chasing anything. He wasn't running. He just walked. It's like he was looking for something he couldn't name. A trucker finally stopped, not out of pity, but concerned that dogs gonna get hit. The Pitbull didn't bark, didn't growl. He just stood still as the man lifted him into the passenger seat. At the shelter, no one came looking. He had no chip. Just fear in his bones and a strange, haunting calmness, like he'd already lived through the worst. They named him Jonah after the man swallowed by the sea, because this dog too had survived something deep and unforgiving. A couple adopted Jonah 3 weeks later. They liked his quiet demeanor. Seems easy, they said, but a quiet dog isn't always an easy one. Jonah didn't eat unless alone, flinched when the door slammed, froze if someone raised there. Hand to fast, he wasn't aggressive, just haunted. The couple returned him. Then another family tried, another. Each time, Jonah lasted only a few weeks before being brought back. Too nervous, too broken, too much. The shelter staff tried everything. Toys, enrichment, training. Nothing seemed to wake the spirit. Inside him, until one evening, after closing, a 32-year-old shelter volunteer named Marlene stayed late. She sat beside Jonah's kennel, quietly, reading aloud from an old book, not talking to him, not coaxing, just being there after 4 nights of this. Jonah finally walked to the front of his kennel and lay down. It was the first time they saw him voluntarily rest near a human. Marlene fostered Jonah. Her home was modest, a small duplex with creaky floors, its overgrown plants, and the scent of cinnamon from a candle always burning. She didn't rush him, didn't ask for affection. She simply included him, a blanket beside. The couch food at the same time every day, soft music playing in the background. Weeks passed, then months. Jonah began sleeping through the night. He wagged his tail once, just once. When he saw her after work, he learned to follow the routine, to anticipate kindness, to expect love. It wasn't fast. It wasn't loud. It was steady, and for the first time in his life, Jonah felt safe. The fire started at 2:47 a.m., an electrical spark in the kitchen, silent and invisible at first, until the smoke filled the hallway. Marlene was fast asleep. Jonah, wasn't he? Woke to the smell. He barked the first full bark Marlene had ever heard from him. She stumbled out of bed coughing, blinded by smoke. Jonah ran to her side, guiding her with his body toward the door. When she collapsed halfway down the hall, he tugged at her sleeve, dragged her, refused to leave without her. By the time firefighters arrived, Jonah was outside, covered in soot, lying across Marlene's chest as if shielding her. They both survived. Barely. The story went viral. Pitbull saves woman from fire. That was the headline. But the story was deeper, because the real miracle wasn't just what Jonah did that night. It was how far he'd come to be able to do it. The dog who once cowered in corners was now a hero. News stations aired his journey. People donated thousands to the shelter in his name. Local schools invited Jonah and Marlene to speak about trauma, recovery, and love. Kids petted him. He licked their hands. He wore a vest that read, "Therapy Dog Survivor." For every hand that once hurt him, there were now 10 hands showing kindness. Jonah had become more than a survivor. He had become a symbol. Jonah lived another 5 years. He watched the seasons change through the same window every morning. Grew gray around the muzzle, slept longer, moved slower, but every night he curled up at the same spot by the bed, the place he had chosen as home. One winter morning, he didn't rise. His eyes looked up at Marlene, soft and tired. She sat beside him, wrapped him in the same blanket he had arrived with, and whispered, "You were never broken. You were just waiting to be seen." He passed quietly. No fear, no pain, just peace. They buried Jonah beneath the oak tree behind the rebuilt home. A hand-carved stone marked the spot. Jonah, the dog who chose to stay. The shelter created a new program in his name, the Jonah Project, focused on rehabilitating misunderstood breeds and long-stay dogs. His photo still hangs above the fireplace, a Pitbull with eyes full of history and a heart full of light. Because sometimes, the greatest heroes aren't the loudest, they're the ones who survive quietly and still choose to love.